Title: McLaren Sabre. The secret hypercar America almost kept to itself. There are limited edition supercars. And then there are cars so obscure that even passionate enthusiasts can go years without fully understanding what they are looking at. The McLaren Sabre belongs to that second category. It is one of the rarest and strangest machines ever to leave walking. A hypercar produced in only 15 examples and created exclusively for the United States market. It was not a mainstream halo model, not a poster campaign, and not a global product push. It was a whisper from McLaren's Special Operations, turned into carbon fiber, speed, and exclusivity. What makes the Sabre so fascinating is that it feels like a hidden chapter in McLaren history. McLaren is a company that has built some of the most technically brilliant road cars of the modern era. From the F1 to the P1 to the Speedtail, yet the Sabre arrived almost like a secret handshake. A car commissioned and developed through McLaren Special Operations for a tiny circle of clients. It was the kind of machine that reminded people the very top of the automotive world does not always work like public industry. Sometimes the wildest cars are made quietly, for a few people who know how to ask. The official numbers instantly explain why the Sabre matters. McLaren said the car produces 824 PS and 800 Newton-meters of torque from a twin-turbocharged V8, and reaches a top speed of 218 miles per hour. At the time of its reveal, McLaren described it as the fastest two-seat McLaren ever. That phrase is important. McLaren has never lacked for speed. But the Sabre was not built merely to be fast in the general sense. It was built to occupy a very specific peak: the fastest two-seat road-legal McLaren. The fact that it was road-legal only for the United States adds a layer of intrigue. This was not a car designed to meet every global regulation. It was a car created around one market and one kind of buyer: people who wanted a machine more extreme than a standard production McLaren, but still able to wear plates in the right jurisdiction. That instantly gives the Sabre a kind of forbidden glamour. It is not exactly a race car, not exactly a conventional road hypercar, and not exactly a concept brought to life. It lives in the delicious gray area between categories. Production was limited to just 15 units. 15, that is a number so small it barely counts as production at all. It turns the Sabre into a private conversation among collectors. Most people will never see one in person. Even among expensive exotic cars, the Sabre carries a kind of invisible rarity. People recognize a P1. They know what a Senna is. The Sabre is different. It is the automotive equivalent of a hidden room in a mansion everyone thought they knew. Its styling reflects that sense of freedom. The Sabre is aggressive even by McLaren standards, with a dramatic body shaped around high-speed stability and cooling efficiency. The nose is sharp and low. The surfaces pull hard over the wheel arches. The rear is tall, ventilated, and unapologetically aerodynamic. McLaren said the Sabre generates 1,000 kilograms of downforce. That number helps explain why the design looks so committed. This is not a car styled around broad commercial appeal. It is a machine that wears its aerodynamic intent on every panel. There is another reason the Sabre looks the way it does. McLaren has said the car was inspired by the Vision Gran Turismo concept. And that connection matters, because Vision Gran Turismo designs are often where brands let their imaginations run free. They are usually digital provocations, not realistic products, to pull visual DNA from that world into a real, road-legal machine is a bold move. It means the Sabre is not just an evolution of existing design language. It is a rare moment where a fantasy sketch was allowed to grow muscles and a chassis. Underneath it all sits McLaren's familiar, but endlessly adaptable V8 architecture, here tuned to deliver extraordinary output. The 824 PS figure makes the Sabre the most powerful non-hybrid McLaren to date at launch. That distinction is crucial. McLaren had already proven through the P1 that hybridization could create astonishing performance. The Sabre chose a different path. It remained a non-hybrid machine, relying on combustion, boost, lightness, and aerodynamic load. In that sense, it feels almost defiant, a reminder that internal combustion still had room for one more loud act. The Sabre's top speed of 218 miles per hour sounds like a simple bragging right number, but it reveals something deeper about the car's purpose. This was not built as a one-dimensional track, special optimized only for cornering. It had the aerodynamics to generate serious downforce, yet enough efficiency and power to reach an enormous top speed. That balance is hard to achieve. Big downforce normally drags speed down. High top speed normally asks for slippery surfaces and restraint. The Sabre tries to deliver both, and that tension gives the car its character, because the car emerged from McLaren Special Operations. Customization was a central part of its identity. MSO has long represented the outer edge of what McLaren can do for its customers. From bespoke finishes to one-off commissions and deeply individualized specifications. With the Sabre, that mindset was not an optional add-on. It was the point. Every example was closely tied to its owner. That means the Sabre is not just rare in quantity. It is also rare in personality, because no two cars were likely to feel exactly alike in visual specification. This is one of the reasons the Sabre makes such a compelling documentary subject. It is not simply a machine defined by technical numbers. It is a machine defined by access. To understand the Sabre is to understand how the ultra-exclusive end of the car world really operates. Beyond ordinary dealership orders, beyond mainstream configurators, there is a realm where manufacturers build cars almost like tailors make suits. The Sabre came from that world, and yet McLaren did not forget performance culture in the process. Reports around the car have consistently emphasized that it was engineered to deliver the brand's signature combination of lightness, response, and high-speed confidence. McLaren's entire reputation in the road car era has been built on a certain kind of precision. Where some rivals aim for brute force or theatrical intimidation, McLaren traditionally tries to feel exact. The Sabre adds a layer of menace to that formula, but the underlying philosophy still matters. This is not chaos. It is calibrated aggression. Its rarity has another interesting effect. It changes the way the Sabre is remembered. Mainstream hypercars generate big public narratives. They are benchmarked endlessly, reviewed everywhere, endlessly photographed, endlessly compared. The Sabre exists partly outside that cycle, because so few were built, and because they were delivered into a narrow collector ecosystem. The car has maintained a mystique that publicized halo cars often lose. It still feels partially hidden. That is a very hard thing to preserve in the digital age. The name Sabre suits it perfectly. A Sabre is not a club or a hammer. It is a precise weapon, fast and cutting. Defined by sharpness rather than blunt force. That fits McLaren's identity beautifully, even when McLaren builds something wild. It tends to do so through the lens of engineering discipline. The Sabre is outrageous, but it is not clumsy. It is dramatic, but not cartoonish. It is the kind of hypercar that seems to have been drawn with a scalpel. There is also a delicious contrast between its low public profile and its outrageous capability. A car that produces 824 PS, generates 1,000 kilograms of downforce, and reaches 218 miles per hour would normally be shouted from rooftops. The Sabre was almost not interested in broad applause. It was closer to a private performance for a tiny audience. That gives it an almost aristocratic strangeness. It does not need to be known by everyone. It only needs to matter to the right few. For a solo-narrated script, one of the most engaging angles is to treat the Sabre as the hidden side door into McLaren's imagination. This is the car that shows what happens when a company famous for precision is given permission to be more exclusive, more extreme, and more selective than usual. The result is not a compromise between road car and race car. It is something closer to an elite custom weapon, a car built for owners who wanted to possess not just performance, but secrecy. Another layer worth exploring is the Sabre's place in the timeline of the internal combustion hypercar. By the time it arrived, the industry was moving toward electrification with increasing seriousness. Hybrid systems were becoming common in the highest performance brackets. And all-electric futures were being discussed even in circles once dominated by cylinders and turbochargers. Against that backdrop, a non-hybrid V8 hypercar, built in tiny numbers for a very specific market, feels like a last deep breath before the room changed. That does not make the Sabre old-fashioned. Far from it. Its aerodynamics, carbon fiber construction, and development through McLaren Special Operations make it an intensely modern object. But emotionally, it belongs to a moment when power, sound, and speed still stood proudly at center stage, without any need to justify themselves in the language of electrified transition. It is a late-era combustion hypercar with the confidence to be exactly that. The buyer experience reinforces the point. A Sabre owner was not simply choosing paint and leather. They were participating in the sort of close manufacturer-client process that turns a car into a commissioned object. That intimacy is one of the reasons hypercars at this level remain culturally interesting. They are not only machines. They are relationships between engineering teams and collectors, between brand image and private taste. And then there is the simple emotional truth. The Sabre looks thrilling because it is thrilling. Its proportions are tense. Its rear wing architecture and aerodynamic surfaces give it the feel of a machine straining against invisible air. It has the visual language of velocity. Even standing still, it looks as if it is